for joining us. Oh, here we go. Okay. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're really excited for tonight's class. Usually we do a lot of stuff focused on painting and painting techniques and canvases. So tonight we're doing something a little bit different, and we are focusing on gallery glass. And I mean this when I say it, gallery glass has been a product that I've absolutely loved forever. So I want to show you what you're creating. I'm sure you saw it when we signed up, when you signed up for the class, but a really fun planter that's available at Michael's. And it's got this cute boho macrame base, if I can figure it out. And then that I can't, so I'm going to just do it later. But you've got your macrame base, and then it comes with this beautiful glass bowl that you can start plants in. The projects that we're doing tonight is safe for water or for dirt or for anything that you do with your project when we're done. Okay, so for those of you that don't know gallery glass, wait, let me back up a little bit. I want you guys to know, she already let you know, but Dylan is in the studio and he will be live on our chat. If you have any questions about what I'm doing or about the product that we're working with or a step that you did or didn't get, ask that in the chat and Dylan will get right back to you. Okay, so now gallery glass. Gallery glass is new and fun. And if you've never used it, the most important thing to know about gallery glass is, one, it makes a glass or a plastic surface look exactly like stained glass. You get the dimensional lead lines, you can blend colors, you get that beautiful transparent but still really vivid color. So gallery glass can transfer anything, plain, boring vases or windows, into something that looks like authentic stained glass. So that's super important. And the greatest thing about gallery glass is it is permanent until you want to remove it. And this can come off of this. It can go back to just plain and simple. If you do it in your home and you create a privacy window, you can take that off when you want a new design or you're ready for a change. So that is something that, for those of you that are new to gallery glass, that's just really important for us to communicate, that it's beautiful, it's permanent until you want it to be removed, and then it's completely removed on anything that you craft. Okay, so I'm going to first go over the supplies that you'll need for today's class. So we are using, again, this beautiful, really fun kind of boho modern planter. Take off your yarn. We're not going to be crafting with that until it's all dry and ready to hang. So just your bowl. And if you've got any stickers on there, any price tags, any manufacturer stickers, just make sure to remove those. And also make sure that it's clean and dust free. So wipe it off with a cloth and just make sure that it's clean. Okay, then the gallery glass colors. So most importantly is your black liquid lead. And then a really fun group of colors. We've got crystal clear, we've got holiday red, we've got rosy pink. Actually, I have two crystal clears. Then we have sunny yellow, we have aqua blue, and then we have two greens, because the techniques that I'm going to do today, anything that you do with, say, an acrylic paint or a craft paint, blending, mixing two colors, all of that you guys can do with gallery glass. So I'm going to kind of show you how to mix two colors, how to soften a color. So just kind of look at lots of techniques that we're going to do today. Okay, another important thing for gallery glass, if you're new to the product, is it's always two steps. The first step is the leading. The leading creates the pattern. So all of this black outline that you see is done with the leading. A tricky thing, and I've taught a Michael's gallery glass class before, so you guys definitely reach out to me or Dylan when we're doing this, because I think everyone may be at a different stage in their project. Some people have maybe already leaded and they have these great little patterns. Some people have not, and I'll teach you how to lead. So wherever you are, just allow us to help you if you have any questions. Okay, but gallery glass. Always two steps. You create your pattern with the liquid lead. Once that is dry, that is important. You can't do the second step until your first step is dry. And then the second step is always to fill it with color. So no matter what you're doing, a home, window, a project, a vase, it's always step one, create your pattern. Step two, fill with color. Okay. What else? Oh, you need a nut pick. And you really, if you don't have a nut pick, don't panic. A toothpick would work. Anything with just a thin, not too sharp, but a thin pointy tip. Toothpick, what else? I think a toothpick is perfect. Everyone's got that. But a nut pick is perfect for the technique. This is your paintbrush for gallery glass. And then on the supply list, I said just some scrap pieces of glass. These can be out of a picture frame. They can be just loose glass that you have around, but just a scrap. It's not, size doesn't matter. It's not going to become part of your project. Always some paper towels. And then most important, of course, is your pattern. Now, the great thing with gallery glass is anything can be a pattern. You can use patterns that we have provided. You can use your favorite coloring book. You can draw your own pattern. You can create a pattern with a Cricut machine. So just know that anything that can be traced can be completed with the gallery glass techniques that you guys are going to learn today. Okay, lots of information, but I want to just make sure that everyone that's new to gallery glass knows what a fabulous product we're working with tonight. Okay, so step one is creating our pattern. So I do want to jump ahead and show you guys really quickly what we are creating tonight. So because I told you that gallery glass is permanent until you want to remove it, here at Plaid, we have a word called clings. And clings are pieces of gallery glass art that was created on a flat surface. And then you can peel that off and remove it, and it becomes a stained glass sticker. So we are making clings, which clings are great to go on any dimensional surface. Vases, planters, even great for your windows. So you can create gallery glass vertical or horizontal directly on a project, but you can also create a sheet of clings that then can be applied to your project. So we are using the cling technique for today's class. Dylan, that was so much information. Does anyone have any questions? No. Okay, I hope that's good. Okay, so we're making clings. All right, so the first thing that we are going to do is get our pattern. And we are using, this is on your supply list, so this is called scenery, and you get all of these fabulous, let me show you guys what you get. Although most of you, I hope, have it. You get all of these beautiful full color patterns. You get all the instructions. So use them, save them, enlarge them, make them smaller, use the colors we picked, use different colors. These are just something that you want to keep in your arsenal of craft supplies forever because there's so much that you can do with them. All right, so we're doing the water lily. So simply take your pattern out and then place your scrap piece of glass on top of your pattern. And for those of you that haven't leaded, I'm going to give you guys just some quick tips and techniques on leading a design. So I always say, look at the design as what it is. It's a beautiful circle with all of the elements laid out for you, but all of these can be cut apart and used in a million different ways. So make sure you always, look at your patterns in that way. Okay. So for the cling, because we want to cover this entire planter with different shapes, I'm not going to do the borders. I'm not going to do that edge. I'm just going to do the flower and the lily pad elements. So the number one tip when working with the liquid lead is you don't want to touch the tip to the glass and drag, because then you don't get the dimension that looks like authentic lead lines. And you also don't get the dimension that allows you to fill it with paint later.
Kirsten, you want to do it to the front camera?
Oh, yeah.
Hold your piece of glass.
So let's see. Like that?
Yep.
Okay, let's see. So instead of like a marker or a paintbrush, you would touch down on your surface and then you would drag. You don't want to do that with the liquid leading. You want to squeeze it and start it and let it, oh, can you guys see it? Let's see if I can do this holding it. and let it fall, and then really just maybe 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch above, I'm not sure if I can talk and hold two things, above the glass,
So it's like draping.
and you're letting that fall onto your surface.
Okay, that's enough. You could do.
Was that clear?
Yes, that was awesome.
I couldn't stop, talk, hold
Yeah.
all at the same time.
Good job.
But that is honestly the only thing, the only tip that you need to remember to have a really beautiful application of your leading patterns. Okay, I'm gonna wipe that off. Okay, so then we're gonna just simply lead a bunch of elements on our glass. So you start it and you just let the lead drape over the pattern. Super easy. You can do them extra thin. You can do them a little bit thicker, whatever you like for the look of your stained glass project that you're creating. See how easy it goes on there. Squeezes out of the bottle, wonderful. If you make any mistakes, you can remove it with a Q-tip and just continue. For this cling, I'm gonna do the flower and the lily pad. Some people cut the tip a little bit at the end because they want their lead lines to be just a little bit thicker. That's totally up to you, and that's totally the preference for the look that you want. Let's see if I can do that.
Perfect.
It's hard to see because it's clear. Let me move that. But see how you get those, whoops, sorry guys. You get those really beautiful dimensional lines that will dry to look like authentic lead lines. I'm gonna do this lily pad, and I'm not gonna include this flower. So what I'm gonna do is the pattern that's provided on the top. And then I'm just gonna act like those petals are not there and just create a straight line to complete that lily pad. I just want enough individual patterns that I know I'm gonna get a really pretty design covering the entire surface that we're crafting tonight. And this big flower is one of my favorites. I'm gonna actually do him totally on his own without a lily pad. And you're just draping. The key to the liquid leading is simply to drape the lead onto the glass. Another tip.
Hey, we have a
Oh,
great
go ahead.
question.
Closer. So we have a good question from Jen. So for the planter, we should reproduce the pattern with the lead on a flat surface first, or should we try to work on the round planter?
Great question. So we're making clings, which I think is just so much easier because it's basically like a coloring book. So working with the lead on a flat surface is always easiest when you're doing something dimensional. Another great tip that people love to do is they love to, on a scrap piece of glass, to just create, you could put lined notebook paper under your glass and just make as many lines as you can to fill your glass. Let those dry, then those peel off, and you can trace a pattern, create a pattern, do anything that is maybe on a window in your home. So that is a great way to apply leading. If you want to apply it to your surface a different way than making a cling. But to me, the cling is the easiest way to transfer a design to a dimensional surface.
Will you show your clings again and peel it off? The ones that you have
Yes.
prepared.
I'm gonna put it down here so you don't see it. So this is, so first I did the leading like we did, let that dry. Then I flooded it with color, which again we'll do, and I'll teach you guys that. And then once that's completely dry, the most satisfying thing ever. You just peel it up and you get a really durable, like you could put it on a curved surface. You can, kind of manipulate it to fit any surface. You can piece it together. you just get really a reusable sticker that looks like authentic stained glass. Well, let's see. You get those beautiful, vibrant colors. So a cling, if you can do a cling, is just such a wonderful way to do gallery glass.
I think you
Did that
cleared it
answer
up.
the question?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I hope so. This you could do, but it would be harder. You know, you'd end up
Right,
touching
smear
it
it.
and getting your finger in it, and then when you rotated it this way, and then the hardest part of that is you've got to get that pattern flat on the inside of that, and that's no fun. So this way it's flat and perfect. Okay, I hope that answered your question.
Yep.
All right, I'm just gonna finish this big flower. So anyone that is leading with us and didn't do their leading before the class and everything is not dry and ready to color, still watch and learn. We're gonna blend some colors. We're gonna create some different textures. So still stay on with us. You'll just tomorrow, you'll take all the knowledge that you learned today to fill your colors. But you guys can see we just leaded a few different elements. You're gonna lead a few more, break them apart, have the confidence to know I just want that flower without that lily pad. I want it with the lily pad. That one, I'm gonna remove the petals, really just kind of manipulate that. You can enlarge it, you can reduce it, but make all of those elements something that you can create a cling from. Okay, any questions about the leading? Okay, guys, so the leading has to dry, and it usually, we just say drying overnight is safe because really, like any craft, the top will form a film first and it will feel dry. But then if you bump it or move it, it's wet underneath. So we always say let it dry overnight. Okay, so no more leading questions. I'm going to move on to the fun stuff. So all of our patterns are colored. The colored is just a suggestion. It's kind of to show you what it looks like done. It's so you can kind of say, oh, I love that, or I'm going to change that sky to blue. But just be as creative as you want to be and change it up when you want to. So you can keep that there if you want to follow that exactly. But we're going to be a little softer and a little more pastel for tonight's project. Okay. So I just want to be clear about that. These are dry. If you just did your leading, don't add color to them because you will have an absolute mess. Your leading, your first step always has to be dry. And you guys, I hope you can see, for those of you who have not used gallery glass, you probably cannot. You can hear it. You can hear the dimension. That's what's the great thing. It makes it authentic. It makes it look authentic, like leaded lines, but it also gives you a place to fill with paint. So the lead is such a fabulous product. It doesn't flatten out. It stays really dimensional and nice. Okay, so you've got your dried leading sheets. It's like a ukulele, right, Dylan? Dylan got me a ukulele, and I can only play Jingle Bells poorly. Okay, so coloring it is super easy. There's a lot of tips that we'll go over tonight. Your crystal clear set to the side because the crystal clear is weirdly my favorite color in the line. But what it does, I guess I shouldn't say color. It's my favorite bottle to use because it brings it all together. It finishes your project. It's what you see on all of our gallery glass projects that creates this beveled, really beautiful textured background. So that is always done with crystal clear. Okay, so you're going to get your rosy pink and your holiday red, and we're going to do our little flowers first. And you know what? Actually, let's start with sunny yellow. So the gallery glass bottle is wonderful because it's got this ultra fine tip that really that works as your paintbrush. You're squeezing right out of the bottle and you're using the bottle to spread the paint. So you don't want to flood it where it goes up and over the lead lines, but you don't want it so thin that when you peel it off, it separates from the lead. So the only tip I have when making a cling is have enough paint to connect all of your lead lines to a paint color. Don't just fill in the center and hope that that will work. Bump up against the lead lines and get a good even coverage. Because when you pull that off, the paint will connect to the lead and make one big sticker.
We have a great question again. Can the cling be cut with scissors after it dries, and can you size it to fit?
Oh, I love
Two
these
good
questions.
questions.
Those are great questions. Yep, absolutely. So they're thin, they're pliable. You could cut this, you know, if you had the edge of a frame, you could cut along the lead lines. You just want to make sure you have a lead line on the edge if you want the traditional look of stained glass, because all the glass is always surrounded by a lead line, but you could cut easily through that with scissors. Great question. Okay, so I'm just filling in the center of these little flowers, and I'm using that tip to bump up against the lead line, make sure it's full but not overflowing. So very, very easy.
Maybe also talk about using the copier. If you're doing a different project, you want to size your.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. So on our, let's see if I can easily find it. There's so many tips about gallery glass. I mean it when I say I love it. So yes, any of these patterns, you can reduce them, enlarge them, cut them apart, use one element from one and add it to another. Really view this as creative as it is. But let me make sure it's on here and where. You get all these written instructions, how to use the lead, how to use the color, tips and techniques. But there is a formula if your window is 3 feet by 4 feet, how to enlarge these to fit that size. So there's so many tips on all of the gallery glass packages that will make your project perfect and super successful. Also, some great ideas, you know, big windows, lanterns, vases. So just really inspiring if you're new to the gallery glass paint line. Okay, so we used one color right out of the bottle and made sure we touched up to the lead line. Now we're going to blend 2 colors. So I've got my rosy pink and my holiday red, and I'm going to pick rosy pink for the outside edge of each petal, using that same thin tip that's on each paint color. I'm going to bump up against the lead and fill half of each petal and on the outside edge. So just like painting, you would kind of shade and highlight your flower the same. I'm going to do the same thing with the gallery glass. So the end of each petal is the lighter pink. But remember, the only key is getting that paint up onto the lead line. Now here, we haven't got this question yet, but this is always one of the best questions. We've had so many people ask us if they need to take a Q-tip and clean the paint off of their lead. Get it real clean, really straight. Nope, you don't have to, because gallery glass is translucent. So when it dries, whether it's yellow or pink or green, the black is darker, so the black wins. So your lead line looks clean and beautiful. You do not have to clean any of your paint off of your lead lines, which is wonderful because I can't imagine cleaning off my lead lines with the Q-tip. So now I'm taking the holiday red and I'm filling in the other half of each petal, not really worrying too much about where they meet, but using that tip to make sure that it touches all the lead lines. And you could definitely blend it with the tip, but I love to have a little tool, whether it be a toothpick or a nutpick, and I love to use that to soften the edge between the light pink and the red. It gives you a beautiful, authentic cut glass look once it's dry, but it also just creates so much depth in your project by blending and combining colors. And you can do 2 colors, you can do 3 colors, you could have the very tip of your petals, you know, a soft white, anything that you want to kind of make it your own. but you barely have to blend those colors. And let me see. Let's see, maybe this one. I'm hoping you guys can see it. Yes. So this is what that will look like when it dries. It's got the dark pink, it's got the red, it's got that authentic look of what glass would look like if it was cut. Can you guys see that? Hopefully. But it's so much different wet to dry, but know that every color that you use in the gallery glass line dries translucent and the light comes through, but the colors stay really vibrant and gorgeous. So on this one, we're going to do the exact same technique, but I'm going to do the light pink on the inside of each petal. I just want to show you one more color combo, so you guys can see how easy it is to blend. A lot of people love some of the texture. So if you, I'll do it down here. If you create a swirl pattern with the tip, being a cling though, you want to make sure that all of those areas are covered. But you just swirl or scribble within your lead lines. I'm doing it over here just so you can see it in a little larger scale. That will dry. Let me hold that up. That will dry. And see how it's textured? It will give you a really beautiful texture. And if you like it really, really smooth, you'll do that application. And then you'll take either your nutpick or your toothpick and you'll just comb it, getting all of that texture out of there and creating a perfectly smooth look. It's fun to do both. It's fun to pick which technique you like best, but both are really great ways to apply the color to your project. Okay, so I've got the pink and I'm actually gonna add some crystal clear, which will dry clear, but when we blend it, it'll pick up some of that pink, so it'll just soften it just a little. The main thing to realize in this is just don't be afraid to mix colors. Don't be afraid to create some fun patterns with the texture. Don't be afraid to let the colors blend and shade together, because there's so many things that you can do with the paint line. So I'm just going to comb that smooth. I'm going to soften the line between the clear and the pink. When you do more than one color, it just gives your cling so much dimension. It's a really pretty look when your project is finished. If you get some air bubbles in there, the toothpick or the nut pick, stirring it around and blending it usually pops all of them, but you can just get in there and tap them and those will go away. You want to make sure that if you do have an air bubble, you get it when it's wet, because it will dry into your paint, and once it's dry, you won't be able to remove it. So remove any imperfections while your paint is wet. But see how that clear just kind of softens the edge of the pink. Okay, so 2 flowers done. Keep going, add some colors. We're going to do the same thing with the green, just to kind of show you guys how it works. Lime green and Kelly green, a dark and a light. And this you can blend and shade any way that you want. I'm going to alternate using that fine tip in the gallery glass bottle to touch the lead and fill with color. And then I'm going to skip one and go to this one. I'm going to do most of them lime green, but I'm going to leave a little edge at the bottom for the dark. And then I'm going to skip to him and maybe leave just a little section for the dark green. Gallery glass is, I love it as an adult, but kids love gallery glass because this same cling technique that we're doing tonight, they can create their own patterns Or mom can make the leading, which that's actually the most fun. Mom can make the leading, whether you do it for a great holiday or you do it to personalize a window in your home. Because remember, you can stick it on your window and remove it when you don't want it anymore. So you do the hard part of making the black pattern. Once that's dry, give it to your kids to color in. They're simply using the gallery glass bottle like a giant marker. They're filling that in. They're having so much fun with color. And once that's dry, they absolutely enjoy pulling that off the glass. They can stick it to their bedroom window. They can stick it to the front door. They can stick it to the car window. They can stick it to any piece of glass. It won't do any damage, and it can be removed whenever you want it to remove. So it's just a super fun craft for the kids. So I'm going to use the nutpick and just flatten out any texture, also making sure that it's touching all the edges of the lead. And then blending the light and the dark green. I think it's really foolproof. You got to work really hard to mess up gallery glass. It's so forgiving. The end result is pretty much beautiful no matter what. So oh, go ahead.
So we both have it in our house.
We do have it in our house. I want you guys, let's see what will show it. Actually, this will show it perfect. I want you guys to see that when it's wet, it's opaque, but when it dries, it's transparent. So you still have those vibrant colors, but you can see the blending. Maybe if I hold it up, you can see the shading. And you can also see, this is a great way to see how the green is over the black leading. So you almost want to think, oh gosh, that's going to dry messy. It's not. The black is going to win. And it's going to be a really clean line. I hope you guys can see that. Okay. So keep coloring, color everything in. The last technique, wait, back to clings. So really important with clings is don't get excited too quick and pull it off when it's not completely dry, because if it's not completely dry, the paint will not remove as a sticker. The part that's wet will stay on your glass and you'll mess up your cling. So just really important is to let it dry overnight. And you'll know it's dry. There's no mistake in it because it will be all completely transparent. So once it's dry, remove it, but don't try to sneak and remove it early because you'll have a big mess. Okay. So color in, let everything dry, blend, shade, really be creative with your gallery glass. Then the way the clings work is you remove them from your glass. Again, you've got these flexible stickers, like a giant fruit roll up. And then you simply have fun creating and building your pattern. So I'm going to put that cling right there just because, but you can see how it sticks on, how it goes really good on a curved surface. If you want to pull it off and you want to reposition it a little bit higher, you can reposition it over and over and over.
We have another good question. If you are making a window, would you put clings on both sides of the window?
Nope. So gallery glass is indoor use only. So you would do all of your crafts, your cling, your patterns on the inside. You wouldn't want it exposed to the outside elements of the weather. Obviously, you see the pattern on both sides, but you only do it on the inside of your home. Great question. So you put your clings on there, you squish it down. But again, if you are working on a vase that's kind of an odd shape, they've got a little bit of stretch. You don't want to do anything too crazy and separate your paint from your lead. But there's really a lot of flexibility in what you can do with these clings. You barely have to press them down. You don't have to use a glue or a paint. They just stick to glass or plastic. I could do that all night long. Just pick it up and reposition it over and over. So you want to just take all of your different clings and create a little scene. But see how great they go on a curved surface? You're not having to add anything. You're not having to do anything to get the edges down. It just magically does it. So you build your little elements, you overlap them, you remove them and reposition them. Here is a great way to show you. If you do not, when you're filling in with color, if you don't get your color all the way to your lead, that's why I probably said that more times than I needed to. When you pull up your cling, you've got a gap between there, and that's why you want to make sure that you have enough color to glue it all together and make it one big sticker. Okay, so you put your elements together, and then filling in with color is really easy. So we say with gallery glass, it can be applied vertical or it can be applied horizontal. The great thing about that, and what we mean by that, is if you are working in your home and you're doing your front door or your kitchen window, you can apply it right out of the bottle and it will not run off your window. It will not mess up. It can be applied vertical or horizontal. So the great thing about the clings is we make those flat, we make those horizontal just because we can, just because it's fun, it's quicker, it's easier. It's like coloring on a table. Then for our background, we're going to do that vertical. So that's why it's so fun to save that step for the end. When your clings are applied, you're filling in your background vertically.
We have another question.
Okay.
If you use the metallic or confetti colors, is there anything different you need to do? Really only for the confetti.
For the confetti. So the metallics, there's a lot of specialties in gallery glass. There's iridescence, there's glow in the dark, there's so many. Iridescence, glow in the dark,
Glitters.
shimmers, glitters. They're in the same bottle, same everything. They're removable, they're permanent. You can use them vertical, you can use them horizontal, you can create a cling. Everything is the same. You can blend them. You can put a red glitter with a red solid and get a really beautiful effect if you're doing something for Christmas, poinsettias. The confetti glitters are removable, can be added to the paint. You can do the pink confetti with the pink solid paint. So be as creative, but the confetti glitters, if you have not seen them, they're giant sheet particles of glitter. So they're just, the color is amazing. The texture that they create is amazing. And those we have you apply with a brush because they wouldn't come out of the tip. So you just take a brush and same thing. You fill that area, but you're filling it with a paintbrush. Very simple, touch the lead, but that's how you use the confetti. That's a great question.
And those you can find on platonline.com. Michael's has the basic colors.
Yep. And though they are wonderful, and use them with all of the other stuff. There's a pink, use it with the pink. There's a green, use it with the pink. They accent and work together beautifully. I could go on and on all night about this, but I know our class is only 1 hour. Okay, so you've applied your cling. The only thing that matters is that you just really make sure everything is down. If you have an air bubble, pull up that little section, flatten it back down. But it's so easy to make sure that everything is on there and secure. Once it's secure, you simply build your background. And that is so easy to do. So I'm going to use Aqua and I'm going to use clear. Tons of our projects that you see have that beveled, textured clear. That is kind of what brings all of our projects together. And that's what we do always on a privacy window. Clear is fabulous to create that look. But be creative, have fun, know you can do that same technique with a color. So first I want to teach you about the clear. The clear background, and actually let me show you on this. This is two-sided, meaning there's color here and color here. So let's see if I can find the perfect spot. Oh, I think I can right there. See how that, let me put my hand in there. See how you get clear, no color, but you get a little bit of a sense of privacy just because of the texture of the clear glass. That is doing a scribble technique with clear only. And that's what I'm going to teach you guys first. So using the bottle, using the tip, you are simply going to scribble the background in any area that there isn't a cling. And to get that look, the difference in what we did when we were filling in our clings and our flowers is you actually want to, let's see if you guys can see that. You want to leave some open spaces because that's what gives you the texture and the different levels of depth when that dries clear. You don't want to comb it with your nutpick or your toothpick because that texture is what gives you that authentic stained glass look. Don't go up and down and create stripes. Don't create a perfect pattern by doing rows like that. Randomly scribble and keep some open areas where it's just glass. Can you guys see that? I think you can. Yes. Keep some open areas because that's what gives you the really beautiful texture. And you want to bump right up to your leading. Not because we're removing it or not because it's working as a cling, but just because sealing all of that together makes it look like an authentic stained glass piece. All right, can you guys see that? And just so you guys know, this project, the goal is to teach you and give you tips and let you guys ask questions. So go back later, look at the pattern, look at the photo that we provided for this class, and know that we placed more clings. We wrapped them all the way around the jar, just so that you can see the depth of the project. Because what I'm doing is really just to give you a visual and to educate you and give you really, really good tips and techniques. Okay, so clear fills in everything. You could, which I kind of like, you could do just clear, and then you would get this beautiful clear textured glass with these vibrant pops of floral. That would be gorgeous. But we're gonna add the aqua. So same technique. I love when the background is more textured than the design elements on a piece. So with the aqua, using that tip on the bottle, I'm going to do that scribble pattern. I'm going to bump right up to my lead pieces. But same thing as with the clear. Make sure you guys can see that. I'm going to leave some openings. It looks really weird when it's wet because it's opaque. When it dries, that will just look like authentic texture on a really old, beautiful vintage piece of glass. I promise. And this technique, this swirl technique, you can also blend colors. So I'm going to do the aqua on the edge of this little lily. And then I'm going to pick up the clear. And right out of the bottle, I'm going to just kind of overlap where the two colors meet. That's really the key when blending gallery glass. You don't want a firm line anywhere. So you just kind of overlap and mix those colors together. But see how it softens it? And then you'll get a real, kind of like an ombre. You'll get the blue fading into a soft clear, but the clear is textured.
We have another question about those other lead lines on the your finished project.
Okay, so those, I think I showed, did I do it over here? I might have wiped them off. So if you want to connect your clings, a lot of times we do, lots of people don't. That's where you just want to make some basic lines on the edge of your glass, just like you did the design elements with lead. Do some basic lines. You won't add any color to those, but you can use those as connectors to make basic lines when you're making your clings. And those lines, once they're dry, they work the same way as the cling does. They just stick on, they bend, they're really easy. You don't have to do anything special to apply them. You just use those as connectors to connect any of your design elements. So let's see. I wanted to show you guys how to blend, how to get that really pretty texture. Again, I love the comparison. Let me show you guys that. Between wet and dry, it's so significantly different. It's opaque when it's wet, and it's transparent when it's dry. All right, I think that's all the important tips and techniques. The tip with leading is to hover over the glass. The tip with coloring it in is to make sure that you've touched paint to lead on every area of your design. Super important when doing a cling is to make sure it's 100% dry. And then creating a background. Creating a background can always be smooth. If you like smooth, the look of smooth, you can definitely go in with your toothpick or your nutpick and you can flatten out that technique. I love the texture of doing it right out of the bottle. So most of the projects that you'll see that we do with gallery glass, somewhere on there, the background is textured. And those are really the basic techniques. And then you would let that dry. You'll reinsert that into the little hanger. Let's see if I can do it this time. Probably not. I could hang it on the phone. Let's see if I can. Make sure before you insert it in this, let's see if I can do it. You would think it wouldn't be that hard, right? Make sure it's completely dry because you don't want it. Well, there's why it's twisted. There we go. I had to get my tassel untwisted. You don't want your fabric to, or your yarn to stick to your wet gallery glass, but wiggle that around in there. Make sure it's secure. All of the painting and the design is on the outside. So you're safe to add dirt or a plant. You can add a fake plant if you wanted to just be extra careful, but you've got all of that beautiful sunlight when you hang that in your window coming through, and it looks like authentic stained glass.
2 more questions.
Oh, I'm ready.
3 questions.
3.
Should the lead lines be put on before doing the background colors, clear and blue?
Yes. Yes. Great question.
So the clear, when applied, does not have to be filled completely in?
Nope. Nope.
And then do we need to clean the bottle tips each time?
So we clean them, like, see, let's see if you guys can see. There's a little bit of a blob just from using it as the writer tip. I just take my finger or a wet wipe and I wipe that off. And then do make sure that you put your lid on every single time. That will allow you to use it over and over and over for all your projects. But you don't have to unscrew this, clean that out.
Right.
Just make sure that the tip is clean, and then definitely make sure that your lid is reattached. And then it's perfect to use over and over and over again.
And store them upright.
And store them upright.
And then one other question.
Okay.
Will it fade in a sunny window for a long time?
I have a really funny story, but it's a long one, so I'm not going to tell you guys. No, the colors are really vibrant, and our lab has done a fabulous job that they'll stay vibrant. Direct sun, you might get a tiny bit of fade, but something like this, because again, it's indoor only, so don't hang this outside in the weather. You're going to hang it in a window, in your home, in your bathroom, and you're going to get beautiful color for a really, really long time. So I want to show you guys this just because this is so fun. So the clings are on there. This has been done for weeks. It's totally dry. I just want to show you guys how easy. If you change your mind, you don't like this anymore and you want some other pattern, you literally just start on an edge and you pull that back, and look, you pull that off your project. Can you guys see that, Dylan?
Yep.
You pull that off your project completely, and you have got back to a really basic round clear vase. It doesn't damage. It doesn't leave a pattern. It doesn't leave any color. That's what we just try to tell people about, the ability to do something home decor and big and bold on a door or a window. Gallery glass is perfect for home decor. So have fun with it, with planners and projects and vases and cute fun stuff, but really have fun moving into big home decor pieces. Okay, I don't want to ruin it too much, so I'm going to put that back on. Okay, so we have any other questions about all the basics of gallery glass?
That looks like everything.
All right, everyone, I want to show you our next class, back to painting and back to really cute painting. So Emma will teach you guys on the 25th, same time, 7:30. And this is Strawberry Fields. And it's a beautiful, fun summer painting of strawberries. And Emma is a fabulous teacher. So you guys sign up and join for this class. You'll really enjoy it. And thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Go back and look at this class if you just got to lead and you're going to color tomorrow. But please enjoy Gallery Glass because it is a super fun product. Thanks everyone. See you next time. Bye.